Of course, it had to be tonight. The one night the temperature decides to swan dive into the negatives, with a wind that feels less like air and more like tiny, angry needles. And there I am, standing in front of my own apartment door, patting down my pockets for the fourth time, knowing damn well what I'm not going to find. My keys. They're sitting on the little ceramic dish by the door, right where I left them so I wouldn't forget them. The irony is so thick I could probably choke on it. My phone screen glows with a pathetic 4% battery. I hit Jordy's contact, holding the phone to my ear, listening to it ring and ring before dumping me into his cheerful, ridiculously upbeat voicemail message. I send a text, then another, nothing, it's useless, I know it is. Once he puts on those giant, silver headphones, the ones that look like they belong in a flight control tower, the world outside ceases to exist for him. A bomb could go off in the living room, and he'd just be bopping his head along to some obscure indie band. God, it's not even proper anger I'm feeling. It's just this weary bone-deep exhaustion I could call a locksmith, I guess. Spend $150 I don't have, or I could crash on someone's couch, be that guy showing up at 1 a.m. No, my eyes drift to the side of the building, to the dark, narrow gap that leads to the back, to the bathroom window. The one with the busted latch we've been meaning to fix for, what, a year. It's a stupid idea. I'm wearing a decent jacket, I'll probably tear it. I'm 31 years old, for Christ's sake, not a teenager sneaking back in after curfew. But it's either that or freeze to death out here, and frankly my survival instinct is narrowly beating my sense of dignity. Fine, let's do this. Time to burgle my own home. The crawl through that window was even less graceful than I'd imagined. My knee scraped against the brick, and a thorny bush I didn't even know we had snagged my sleeve, but I made it. I landed on the bath mat with a soft thud, a quiet little victory. For a moment I just stood there in the pitch-black bathroom, catching my breath, feeling the ridiculousness of the situation wash over me. I'm an idiot, a clumsy, forgetful idiot. I crept out of the bathroom, tiptoeing down the short hallway, my socks muffling any sound on the hardwood floor. The plan was simple. Slip into my room, faceplant into my bed, and deal with the consequences of my idiocy in the morning. But then I saw it. A faint, flickering blue light spilling out from the living room, painting shifting, ghostly shadows on the hallway wall. My first thought was a wave of pure relief, so potent it almost made me laugh. Oh, thank God, Jordy's awake, he's just watching a movie. He didn't hear his phone, the classic Jordy move. I was about to call out his name, to announce my ridiculous commando-style entry and have a laugh about it, when my brain slammed on the brakes. My mouth went dry, something was profoundly, fundamentally wrong. There was a figure on the couch, yes, but the silhouette was familiar in a way that made my skin crawl. It was my shape. The person was wearing my favorite flannel pajama shirt, the ancient, threadbare one with the worn-out elbows and a small coffee stain on the cuff that I could never get out. It's my go-to comfort clothing, the thing I wear when I feel sick or sad, a second skin. I would have noticed if it was missing. I live in that thing. Then my gaze shifted to the TV screen and the world tilted on its axis. The blood in my veins didn't just turn to ice. It felt like it evaporated completely, leaving me hollow and cold. It wasn't a movie. It was one of my old home videos. The VCR, a dusty relic I hadn't seen in months, was hooked up to the TV. On the screen, a grainy, wobbly version of me, maybe 7 years old with a gap-toothed grin, was tearing the wrapping paper off a present on Christmas morning. In the background, I could see the hideous floral wallpaper of my childhood home. These were the tapes. The ones I'd brought over from my parents' house, a whole box of them, my entire recorded history. The tapes that Jordy had, with a pained expression and a sympathetic hand on my shoulder, told me were gone forever. "Man, I'm so sorry," he'd said, and his voice in my memory was so clear, so full of what I thought was genuine regret. The storage box in the basement must have gotten the worst of that leak. I checked them all. They're covered in mildew, totally warped, completely unwatchable. I had to throw them out before the mold spread. I'd been devastated, I'd mourned them, but here they were. And Jordy, it had to be Jordy, sitting there wrapped in my clothes and my life, wasn't just watching them. He was hunched over, those stupid silver headphones clamped over his ears, sealing him in his private world. In his lap was his laptop. His focus was terrifyingly intense. He would play a few seconds of tape, my mom fluffing my hair, and then hit pause. The image would freeze. His fingers would then fly across his laptop's trackpad. Click, drag, click. He was meticulously capturing screenshots. He dragged the selection box over my face, over my dad's hand on my shoulder, over the family dog. He was dissecting my childhood frame by agonizing frame and saving the pieces. I was paralyzed, pinned to the spot in the dark hallway, a trespasser in a life that was supposed to be my own. The air in my lungs felt thick and heavy, like I was trying to breathe syrup. The cheerful, tinny sound of my dad's voice from the TV, a ghost from a past I thought was lost, was now the soundtrack to a horror movie starring me. And the monster, the thing in the dark, was wearing my clothes and stealing my memories. I couldn't breathe. It felt like my throat had closed up. The urge to scream, to yell, "What the hell are you doing?" was a physical pressure building in my chest, but it was choked off by a more primal animal instinct. Do not be seen. My body started moving before my brain gave the order. It was a retreat, but silent, agonizingly slow. I took one step backward, my sock-covered foot landing soundlessly on the wood floor. Then another, my eyes were locked on the back of Jordy's head, on the familiar shape of his shoulders inside my shirt. Every tiny movement he made, a slight tilt of his head, the tap-tap-tapping of his fingers, sent a fresh jolt of adrenaline through me. I was a prey animal, and the predator didn't even know I was there. The hallway seemed to stretch into an infinite, dark tunnel. I had to get back to the bathroom, back to the window. It was my only way out of this nightmare version of my own home. My hand trailed along the wall, my fingertips grazing the cool plaster, guiding me backward in the dark. I could hear my own heartbeat, a frantic, thudding drum against my ribs that felt loud enough to give me away. When I finally reached the bathroom doorway, I risked a final glance back. Jordy was still there, a hunched silhouette in the flickering blue light, completely absorbed in his grotesque project. He rewound a section of the tape, the VCR whirring audibly in the quiet apartment. On the screen, a younger me was laughing, chasing our old golden retriever, Sparky, through a pile of autumn leaves. Jordy paused it right on my face mid-laugh. He stared at it for a long, still moment. The sight of it, this clinical, obsessive study of my own happiness, was more violating than any physical blow. I slipped into the bathroom and gently, so gently, closed the door until it was almost shut, leaving only a hairline crack. I couldn't risk the click of the latch. Climbing back out the window was a clumsy, desperate scramble. This time I didn't care about the noise or the scrapes. My jacket caught on the thorny bush again and I heard it rip, but the sound was distant, unimportant. I landed hard on the cold, damp ground outside. The pain in my leg was sharp, a fresh cut bleeding through my jeans, but it was a good pain. It was real. It grounded me. I didn't stop to check the damage. I just ran. I ran out of the narrow side yard and onto the empty, silent street. I didn't look back. I just ran until the stitch in my side was a burning fire and my lungs were screaming for air. I ended up at a 24-hour diner about a mile away. The kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and a permanent smell of stale coffee and grease. I slid into a booth in the back corner, my body trembling, my mind a chaotic storm. I ordered a coffee I didn't want, just to have something to wrap my shaking hands around. Why? The word echoed in my head, a single maddening drumbeat. Why lie about the tapes? Why wear my clothes? Why screenshot my childhood? Every possible explanation was worse than the last. Was this some kind of sick prank? Was he obsessed with me? Was he dangerous? The friendly, slightly goofy guy I'd shared beers with, complained about work with, lived with for the past year, he was a stranger. A terrifying stranger who held my past in his hands, and I had to go back there eventually. I had to go back to that apartment. Edit, I'm losing my mind, need advice. Okay, so I'm writing this from the men's room of the diner. My phone is plugged into an outlet behind the hand dryer, and I've been nursing the same cup of coffee for 3 hours. Thank you for the replies. To answer a few questions, no, I'm not calling the cops. What would I even say? My roommate is wearing my PJs and watching my old home movies. They'd think I was drunk or high. And for those of you saying to just confront him, I can't, not yet. After what I saw, looking him in the eye feels impossible. I need to know what I'm dealing with first. The plan, pieced together from a few of the saner comments, is terrifying, but it's the only one that makes sense. I have to go back in. I have to search his room, so that's what I did. I waited until 8:30 a.m. when I knew he'd be getting ready for work. I sent him a text, my fingers fumbling on the screen. Hey man, crashed at Sarah's last night, had way too much to drink lol. Heading straight to the office from here, but I forgot my work laptop. Is it cool if I swing by in like 20 mins to grab it? The 3 dots of him typing appeared almost instantly. My heart hammered against my ribs. Yeah, no worries, dude, doors unlocked. The casualness of it, the dude, made my skin crawl. Walking back into that apartment was one of the hardest things I've ever done. The air felt thick with last night's secret. I could hear the shower running, that was my window. I forced a loud, cheerful, hey, it's me, just grabbing my stuff, towards the bathroom, then made a beeline for Jordy's room. His room was always neat, almost obsessively so, but I wasn't there to admire his tidiness. His laptop was on his desk, open. I sat down, my hands slick with sweat. I tried the first password that came to mind. His dog's name, wrong, his birthday. Wrong, then a cold, sickening thought slithered into my brain. I typed in my own birthday, it opened. I felt a wave of nausea. His password was my birthday. For how long? My hands were shaking so hard I could barely control the trackpad. I searched his desktop, his documents, nothing. It was all too clean, but in the comments, someone had mentioned looking for hidden or encrypted files. I found a guide online and followed the steps. A single grayed out folder appeared on his desktop. It was named Archive. I clicked, it asked for another password. My birthday again, denied. My mom's name, denied. My dad's name, denied. What the hell? Then I remembered the video from last night, the Christmas one. I remembered the name of the golden retriever I was chasing in the yard, Sparky. I typed it in. Sparky. The folder opened and I saw it. It wasn't just a few screenshots, it was thousands of them, meticulously organized into subfolders. Christmas 1997, beach trip 1999, first day of school. There were pictures of me, my parents, my grandparents, my childhood home. He'd screenshotted everything, but that wasn't all. There were other folders. One contained every photo I had ever posted on any social media platform, right back to my awkward high school MySpace days. Another had detailed files on my family members, their jobs, where they lived, links to their own social media profiles. There was a satellite map of my parents' house with the driveway and windows circled in red. Then I saw the text file. It was titled Project Rebirth TXT. I clicked it open. It was a document, part diary, part instruction manual. It detailed mannerisms of mine to copy, phrases I used often, the way I laugh. There were notes on my handwriting with links to websites on forgery. And at the very bottom, the last entry dated 2 nights ago. The emotional foundation is built. The visual record is almost complete. The final step is assimilation. To become, one must first see. The sound of the shower turning off jolted me back to reality. I slammed the laptop shut, my mind screaming. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't a weird obsession. This was something else, something terrifyingly methodical. I had to get out. Update, it's over. The truth is worse than anything I could have imagined. I couldn't run, not this time. When I heard the water shut off, a switch flipped in my brain. The fear was still there, a cold, hard knot in my stomach, but now it was mixed with a white-hot, clarifying rage. I didn't grab my laptop, I didn't flee. I walked out of his room, leaving his laptop open on the desk with the Project Rebirth file glowing on the screen, and I waited. I stood in the hallway, right where I had stood frozen in the dark hours before. The bathroom door opened and Jordy walked out, a towel around his waist, steam billowing around him. He was humming a cheerful little tune. He saw me and jumped, a hand flying to his chest. Jesus, man, you scared me. I thought you'd already left. He was smiling. A normal, friendly, roommate smile. The disconnect between that smile and the contents of his laptop was so vast, so insane, that for a second I thought I was the one losing my mind. Jordy, I said, my voice came out low and steady, which surprised me. We need to talk. His smile faltered. He saw the look on my face. What's up? You look like you've seen a ghost. I saw you last night, I said. The color drained from his face, all of it. He went from tan to a pasty, sickly gray in a heartbeat. What are you talking about? I forgot my keys. I climbed in through the bathroom window. I saw you in my pajamas watching my tapes, the ones you told me were ruined. He just stared at me, his mouth slightly open. The friendly mask was gone, and underneath there was nothing, just a blank, hollow panic. Your laptop is open on your desk, I continued, my voice getting louder. Your password is my birthday. I read it, Jordy. I read Project Rebirth. What is it? What the hell is it? He stumbled backward, hitting the wall. He started shaking his head, a frantic, jerky motion. You don't understand. It's not what you think. Then what is it? I yelled, finally losing control. Why do you have maps of my parents' house? Why are you trying to copy my handwriting? Why are you stealing my life? That's when he broke. He slid down the wall and crumpled onto the floor, burying his face in his hands. His shoulders started to shake, and a sound came out of him that wasn't crying. It was a raw, guttural sob of pure despair. It was the sound of something utterly broken. The story came out in shattered pieces, a torrent of whispered, choked-up confessions. His childhood wasn't just bad, it was a black hole. Abuse, neglect, foster homes, a litany of horrors that made my stable, boring, happy childhood seem like a fairy tale. He had nothing. No happy memories, no family photos, no sense of self that wasn't built on trauma. He found me online years ago through a mutual acquaintance. He didn't just find me, he studied me. He saw my photos, my family, my stupid, happy life, and he developed an obsession. It wasn't a romantic obsession or a violent one. It was something stranger and sadder. He became convinced that if he could just understand my life truly and completely, he could somehow overwrite his own. He could build a new past for himself. He engineered our meeting. He manipulated things to become my roommate. The lie about the tapes was so he could study them in private. Wearing my clothes was about feeling what it was like to be me. The Project Rebirth, was his insane, desperate attempt to perform a kind of psychological transplant. He wasn't trying to steal my future, he was trying to steal my past to escape his own. He looked up at me, his face streaked with tears, his eyes full of a terrifying, bottomless emptiness. I just wanted to know what it felt like, he whispered, just for a little while to be someone who was loved. I called the police, I had to. Not because I thought he would hurt me, not anymore, but because the whole situation was so far beyond anything I could handle. He was sick, he needed help that I couldn't provide. They came, they talked to him, they talked to me. He was cooperative, almost docile, he didn't deny anything. There was no real crime they could charge him with. Pathological identity appropriation isn't a line item in the criminal code. They took him for a psychiatric evaluation. His sister, a woman I never even knew existed, came and packed his things a few days later. She wouldn't look me in the eye. Now his room is empty. The door is closed, but it doesn't matter. The whole apartment feels contaminated. I walk past his closed door and I can still see him on the floor, weeping. I sit on my couch and I can see him sitting there in my pajamas, his face lit by the glow of my stolen memories. I took the box of tapes, all of them, and I drove them to the local dump. I stood there and watched the guy in the bulldozer push them into a mountain of trash. I thought it would feel like a release, a cleansing. It didn't, it just felt empty. Destroying the tapes didn't erase the image from my head, the image of him watching, studying, yearning. He's gone. I'm safe, I won, but what did I win? An empty room and a permanent, ugly stain on my own past. Every happy memory I have is now tainted with the knowledge that it was coveted, studied, and used as a tool in someone else's private madness. He didn't steal my life, but he stole the comfort of it. He showed me a darkness so profound, a human hunger so desperate and twisted that I can never unsee it. He looked into my simple, happy life like it was a window into heaven, and in doing so, he dragged a piece of his hell in with me. The apartment is quiet now, but it's not peaceful. It's the silence of a deep, unseen crack in the foundation of everything I thought was real.